So I've been implementing a morning routine for almost a decade now, and it has been one of the most instrumental parts of any of my success. So today I figured I would go through a lot of the reasons behind my morning routine and exactly what's in it and why I choose to do it in order to help me thrive. Welcome back. My name is Kevin, and I help stressed out overachievers design the ideal day. So instead of trying to focus on so many different positive habits and patterns that we want to develop, we take a look at our 24 hours and design the almost ideal, close to perfect day that we can try our best to execute through a system of daily routines. So when your head hits the pillow at the end of the night, you feel really, really good about what you actually did that day and where your life is headed. And of course, one of those things that helps tremendously in this pursuit of personal development and trying to become the best version of ourselves is a morning routine. So there were many different reasons why I even began a morning routine, and which ultimately led into the creation of ritual design, which is the other fundamental four and all the other parts of ritual design that creates the ideal day. But one of the main reasons that I started this was because I figured I'd get a leg up and I'd wake up earlier, for the most part, not too early, but earlier than everybody, right? Or any of my family members or any of my coworkers or friends. And what that did was that gave me attention. That gave me the attention that I needed for myself to invest in activities that I wanted to do for me, that made me a better person. Not only did it give me the attention that I needed and the solitude, if you will, but it gave me a psychological win because I knew that I was up earlier than most people working on myself. Number two, it actually tells my subconscious mind that I respect myself. It tells me that I am investing in myself, which is a good thing. So it sets me up for a positive relationship with my subconscious. And why this is important is because in the morning is when our brains are most susceptible to programming. It has to do with the brain waves transitioning into our awake brainwave state, if you will. And that transition period has a lot to do with, has a lot of influence on how we start and how we actually go through our day, whether it's a positive day or a negative day. And the third reason that I started this morning routine was because of the fact that if my day went to crap and nothing that I wanted to get done got done and there was too many distractions and everything just was terrible, I still knew that I completed a really awesome morning routine, and even just doing those specific activities in that routine set me up for a win for the day. So let's get into how I actually structure my morning routine. So it is a very simple structure, and this is a very all-encompassing, but also, like I said, simple. And it has to do with what I call the trifecta. And this is real simple. I work on my body, I work on my mind, and I work on my emotional state. And what's really cool is that if there is something that doesn't seem like it falls into one of those three categories, it actually does. Because think about this. If you want to make a career change, you're saying to yourself, well, where does career fall? Does it fall into my body or my mind? Like, I don't really, it's just my career. It's very elusive. Well, when you really break it down, it's a little bit more clear and understanding. So, for instance, to advance your career, and to say if you want to take 20 minutes every morning before you have to go off to your crappy job, and you want to check on Indeed and LinkedIn and send some resumes or whatever, and do that work in the morning, what would you do? Well, let's see how those three pieces of the trifecta actually affect your career search. You ultimately have to be functioning. You have to be somewhat healthier, and the healthier you are, the more you're going to be able to, beat the battle of the bed, actually get up on time, and actually be able to invest the time that you set out to do that career work. Your mind, right? Well, clearly, the more focused we are, the more cognitively capable we are, then the better our resumes are going to be, the better our interviews are going to be, and the more chances we are going to have to be able to advance our career. And finally, emotions, right? Say a prospective employer says something on an interview and it kind of rubs you the wrong way a little bit. Well, if you don't have control of your emotions and you don't have an emotional clarity, you may say something that might kill the interview. And that was just one example, but ultimately, everything in our life revolves around those three elements, from our finances to our family relationships to our friendships. Everything falls into one of those three categories. So that's why I decide to ultimately structure my routine, my morning routine at least, around these three elements. So if you are looking to create your own morning routine to help you thrive, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to list out everything from top to bottom that I do, not so that you can copy from A to Z, because that is not going to serve you most likely, because we are so individualistic. Like, we are so custom to what we need in our lives, but it may give you some ideas and may give you a little bit of general structure. So the first thing is actually a little bit of a prep before the morning routine begins, right? It's when I get out of bed, and there is a couple things that I do. I get up and I go downstairs and let the dog out. He's got to pee. I got to pee. And I'll feed the dog. And then I will make a tall glass of water with lemon. And then I'll also have a glass, probably about like maybe a little less than 8 ounces, maybe about 6 ounces of water with a good amount of pink Himalayan salt. Because of the fact that the diet I'm on, which is the primal keto type diet, I lose a lot of minerals and a lot of electrolytes, so I put a little bit of salt in there before ultimately my workout later on. So that, and then obviously brew the coffee. That's been prepped the night before, so let the coffee brew. And that puts me right around 6:30. So that whole process actually takes about 15 minutes. I am not a person who jumps out of bed, puts on my running shoes, and starts jogging and starts moving and breathing. The reason I don't do that is because, granted, it may be more beneficial to you physically to start moving the second you get out. I found that consistency is way more powerful. So we will get into that at the end of this video, but ultimately, I don't do that deliberately. So after this little prep phase is my first part of my real morning routine. This is the investment routine. And this is me simply reading. So whatever book I'm currently reading, right now I'm reading the Primal Blueprint, which is the handbook, like literally it's like this textbook really, by Mark Sisson. Just check it out, it's very cool. And I'll read for only about 10 or so minutes, 10-15 minutes. And then I will do my gratitude practice. Now, the gratitude practice is a part of the Ritual Design Planner that the whole day has already been planned the night before. So it's a very quick, it's like a 30-second process, because I've trained myself to even look around. Even if I'm not feeling grateful, I can look around and just look at my surroundings and say, I'm grateful for this house. I'm grateful for my next breath. I'm grateful for, of course, my family. Like, that usually always is some of the top ones that make it. But if something specific happened the day before, it may fall in there and say, hey, I'm grateful for my brother-in-law lending me tables and chairs or something like that. So far you can already see that the first part, and simply just getting some reading in, is working on my mental state, my mental clarity and cognitive ability to keep reading, right? Learning, and actually the act of reading is also waking me up a little bit more. And then a little bit of a gratitude practice is helping my emotional state. Next, we move into the next section, if you will. This usually happens around 6:45, 6:50, and this is some breathing and some stretching. So this is my breathing routine, is a combination of brass playing breathing. So as previous career as a musician, I have a lot of breathing techniques that I do. I also do some box breathing in there, and then I will, that's pretty much it. Every once in a while I'll change it up and do some different breathing things, but that takes only about 5 or 6 minutes or so. And then my stretching routine is a combination of some light yoga, some primal stretching, and some core flexibility stuff, though that will take about another 10 minutes. So that puts me right a little just over 7 o'clock. And that, obviously, that whole section is revolved around my physical state. At the same time, while I'm breathing and stretching, what I'm trying to do is not meditate, but I'm trying to be present. And I'm trying to simply be aware of my surroundings, be aware of my thoughts, and just get me ready for the next part of the routine, which is a meditation session. So this, again, is a a very clear kind of process that helps me not only with my mental clarity and focus and state, but also my emotional state. Because many times I've found myself having a difficult time meditating because I'm in an emotional issue that's been going on in my life. So that will ultimately help because of working on your meditation and your Zen clarity will help you become just a happier and calmer person. So by the time that is done, we're sitting around 7:20. And now I have my last and longest section of the routine, and that is my workout. So it'll take about anywhere between 35 and 40 minutes. And this is mostly a resistance training, strength training workout. I work out 6 days a week. I will do on 2 of those days, I will add an additional HIIT training, so high intensity interval training, and it's a very short, pretty much jog, 1 minute sprints, and 1 minute rest. So it's very simple, but most of the focus is on my strength training. The last part of the routine is a cold shower. So I don't take an entirely cold shower. I'll take a regular shower, and at the end of the shower, I'll turn on the water totally cold for about maybe 20 or 30 seconds. Nothing too crazy, but it's just enough to elicit a hormetic stressor, as they say. Basically, there is quite a bit of research, I think out of Poland, that is done for cold therapy. And this is why we see a lot more of these cryotherapy tanks popping up, more and more people taking cold showers, ice baths for, the biggest benefit is anti-inflammation, an anti-inflammatory response. So, trying to get some inflammation out of your body. So that is pretty much it. Okay, the last part of this video is going to be talking about the key takeaways. So what should you take away from my morning routine that helps me thrive? Well, the number one takeaway that I believe is the most important is the word consistency. I alluded to this earlier on in the video. Consistency is king. That is the biggest thing, because I'll tell you, when I first started implementing a morning routine, I experimented with all these different things. And I thought, well, I got to do what Tony Robbins does. And I got to do what Tim Ferriss does. And I got to do what James Clear does. Like, I don't have to do any of what anybody says except what I want to do and what works long term for me. So I used to do exactly, for instance, one of my parts of my routine was what Tony Robbins told me to do. And Tony Robbins told me to, the second I get out of bed, start jumping on a trampoline and drinking water and getting my lymphatic system drained. Okay, that's great. And he's right. And that's probably what I should be doing. But what happens was I was trying to mess with my chronotype a little bit. I was waking up a little too early. And that was not allowing me to be consistent because I was waking up too early and I was trying to get that extra piece in. And it ultimately led me to fall back into bad patterns of, losing the battle of the bed, snoozing, not having enough time, dropping parts of the routine, and then dropping the routine altogether, or whatever it may be. Right around 2000, I want to say 18 maybe. So probably I would say about 4 years or so, I guess, I found what worked and what consistently works for me, for years. And what worked for me ultimately is easing into the morning. I know it's not sexy. I know it's not cool. The whole thing is to rise and grind. But we know that that's not something that we need to do, because if you do that for a week and then you ditch it for a month and you do it for another 3 days and then you ditch it for another 2 months, what's the point? You're not being consistent. Consistency is king. So you have to find what works for you and what you can stick with long term. Number 2, start small. You have to start, if you've never done a morning routine before, you do not want to copy what I just laid out to you, because that is going to be too overwhelming. My routine is just under 2 hours long. That's, for most people, very difficult. I mean, we have a child, we're probably going to have a second one eventually, and I'll tell you, these routines will still be occurring because I've made them such a priority in my life. My wife knows that. It's my work. So ultimately, it's a priority that you have to set. But if you're just beginning this journey, you have to start small, because remember, with key takeaway number 1, consistency is king. So instead of having 6 different elements, maybe try 3. Do a quick little breathing and meditation session. You could do that together if you want to try to get a workout in or whatever, maybe. And maybe just pick up a book and read for 10 minutes or whatever. You can do some affirmations. You can do some journaling. Whatever suits you and whatever you feel like you need that makes you thrive for the rest of the day, for the rest of the whole day. And last takeaway that I want you to leave this video with is that the battle of the bed is actually 90% of the battle. So I've alluded to this before, and I think I'm going to, like I said, do an entire video on the battle of the bed and all the details around actually waking up. But if you are able to get out of bed on time from the first alarm clock that actually goes off, and not snooze, the rest of the routine is really quite easy. So it kind of brings back to the Pareto principle, right? The battle of the bed is the 20% of the thing that makes 80% of the difference. Because of the fact that as soon as you wake up, you've beaten the snooze button, you've beaten the battle of the bed, you feel great because you've won, right? So you're like, oh, right, I'm up, I'm doing what I wanted to do, I set this plan the night before, and now I'm actually doing it. I'm accomplishing exactly what I wanted. So the rest of the routine is pretty much as follows. There may be some hiccups along the way. That's okay. But, that's the biggest issue. So that is it. That is my routine in pretty much in its entirety. For the last 4 or 5 years now, that has been super consistent and super beneficial for every aspect of my life. I've never been healthier. I've never been happier. I've never been more productive because of the investment that I make on my mind, my body, and my emotions. So if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing and, of course, hitting the bell notification to be notified the next time I release a new video. And if you like it, definitely hit the like button too. That will help not only me know how much you like it, but it'll help more people find this video and be more helpful within the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're looking for maybe another routine, maybe you've tried a morning routine before and you've got one pretty good, but you notice that there's this weird transition from your morning into your actual job, and maybe you have to start some type of before work routine or whatever, you could check out this video right here.